All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today we'll be doing our preview and prediction for the Arizona State Sun Devils in 2022. Make sure you guys subscribe. We'll be doing this for all 65 Power 5 teams and a handful of Group of 5 teams as well. Looking at this coaching staff, Herm Edwards, he's back for his 5th season, 25-18 overall. It's been a bumpy tenure, I'd say, for Edwards and crew, especially this past season, as nearly 20 players have transferred. Numbers probably reached more than that by now. 5 assistants have been fired due to a recruiting violation investigation, something along that sort. A lot of players have left the program this offseason after not a great 2021 campaign, so things are certainly choppy in Tempe. Glenn Thomas, first season as OC, comes over from UNLV. He has plenty of NFL experience, as does Donnie Henderson, his second year with the Sun Devils. First as the defensive play caller. He's been coaching since 1983. Looking at the offense, 28.4 points per game. The running game was really good. The passing attack struggled, though. They were first in the conference in yards per attempt, but overall rhythm was just missing. Jane Daniels is now gone. Three-way battle to replace him. Emory Jones, he's going to show up a little late here, but his legs will be vital for what the offense did last year because Daniels, he was really good with his legs. Great production on the ground. He was the leading rusher for Florida last year. Was Jones. An inconsistent passer, reading defenses was tough, but overall I think they're going to look to get the similar type of production here out of Emory. I wouldn't consider this an upgrade. I wouldn't really call it a fall off either. Jaden Daniels certainly struggled last season, did not really develop much as a passer. The same can be said for Emory, so solid addition right here. Paul Tyson, though, the grandson of Bryant, he pushes it downfield with more confidence, I think, than Trent Borgett. He showed good downfield stroke as well in the spring game, so it's certainly a three-way battle here. Borgett has been in the program longer, so you'd have an edge there, but I think Emory's overall experience and what they want to do with his legs, I think, will give him the edge early on. I think he'll be the starter this season. Looking at the weapons these guys have to work with, lose 5 of the top 6 pass catchers from a season ago. Ricky Pearsall, L.V. Buckley Shelton, and Johnny Wilson have all transferred out of the program. Rashad White and the tight end Curtis Hodges are the other 2 who depart as graduates. In the same boat as last year when it was a big question mark as to who would step up. Brian Thompson, a former Utah transfer, he's a streaker. Not much production in his career, but when he touches the ball, it's usually due to having a step downfield. Big-time playmaker there. And Thompson, looking to get him more involved this season. Chad Johnson Jr., a special teams contributor most of last season. I think they're certainly going to want to get him involved on offense this fall. And then they just picked up Cam Johnson from Vanderbilt, 124 career receptions, a short yardage slot weapon. He's a guy that you can get the ball to, and he'll pick up a handful of yards for you. So adding some experience here, that's what they need in this receiving core because there's not a lot of it one bit. And, Andre Johnson as well, he was a small contributor last season. No one really stands out in this receiving core, but I do think they have some potential. It's kind of a middle of the pack towards bottom of the Pac-12, I think, in overall depth and talent. The running game, I really like this running back group. Xavier Valladay comes over from Wyoming to replace Rashad White, 1,500 yards the past 2 seasons. Valladay's a similar player to White. He's not as explosive, but he can catch the ball downfield very well. Quick initial burst. Doesn't really have that second gear, but I'd say he's fast enough to pick up big yards, along with that good vision. I really like Xavier Valladay. I think he's going to replace White here with ease. White last year really carried this offense for most of the season with his abilities. Freshman Tevin White, he's similar as well with all-purpose type qualities. And they also got Daniel Nagata, 5 yards per carry last season. ASU is certainly comfortable with its backfield. I think this is certainly a positional group that's going to have a lot of influence on what they do on offense this year, I think. These 3 mixed with Emory Jones. I don't expect much fall-off in the run game department, even though Rashad White, he was one of my favorite players in the draft. That's obviously a big loss. The offensive line was considerably well last season, I thought. They do add 3 transfers to replace the 3 departures. Des Holmes, he'll probably slide in at left tackle from Penn State. And then Chris Martinez, he's probably going to be the right guard from San Diego State. Strong and physical was the Aztecs' offensive line last season, so I think those are 2 solid pickups. You even see Holmes play right tackle. We'll see what happens, but the offensive line is quite solid last season, and I think some of these veteran additions in the portal will certainly make the fall off not as tough. Looking at the defense, they only allowed 20.8 points per game last year. They're 13th in total defenses, a really good unit, but they lose important players at all 3 levels, either to the draft or the transfer portal. Jermaine Loyal didn't play last year, but he does transfer. DJ Davidson, Tyler Johnson, Shannon Foreman, all those guys also depart from the program, so their defensive line's a little bit of hurt. Nesta Jade Silvera, though, he does lessen the pain a little bit. He comes over from Miami, and a good interior run stopper. Underwhelming size on this defensive line is one thing I noticed. That's certainly going to be something to watch this season. I do like defensive end Trevez Moore. Only played in 3 games last year, the former LSU transfer. expect big things out of him. And Joe Moore, too, the other defensive end. Probably the best group on this defensive line is Joe Moore and Trevez Moore. No relation there, but I do think these two are certainly going to give the pass rush a boost if they can stay healthy this fall, because the interior defensive line, they're going to need some help, I think. If they didn't get Jade Silvera, I'd be really concerned, but he's certainly going to help out quite a bit. Familiar faces at linebacker, Kyle Scholl. He had a team-high 88 tackles last year. He wasn't great in man coverage, zone for that matter, really, either. Getting off blocks and getting in a run-stopping stance was tough at times for him, but he still was one of the top playmakers here in the middle. And then Merlin Robertson, he's a fifth-year senior. They use him in a variety of ways. He's probably the best player on this defense, one of the most talented as well. He was a high-end recruit coming out of high school. He stuck around throughout Herm's entire tenure. Look at the Sun Devils secondary. They had 16 interceptions last year, completely revamped back in this fall, though. Lose 4 starters. Tommy Hill also transferred to Nebraska. Jordan Clark at nickelback, he's the only returner, and he was inconsistent at times. So secondary has a lot of work to do, especially with all that playmaking leaving. Corey Bethely from Hawaii, though, he is a stud. They picked him up from the portal. He's going to anchor down on the safety spots. 99 tackles, 5 interceptions, 8 tackles for loss, a pair of forced fumbles as well. This guy was an all-around stat sheet stuffer. He did so much for them. He's going to ease the pain in the secondary. This group altogether, though, a lot of concerns because they lose so many good players, especially up front. That pass rush, that fearful defensive line they had helped out the secondary so much. And that back end was pretty talented as well, so it just seemed like a perfect combo for ASU. They lose a lot in all 3 levels. That's unfortunate for Arizona State. This defense is certainly going to take a step back. Looking at the schedule and the prediction here for Arizona State, they kick things off with Northern Arizona at Oklahoma State and Eastern Michigan. I think they'll go 2-1 in those ball games. The first 2 wins are pretty self-explanatory. Going on the road, they'll play Oklahoma State, a tough defense. They do lose a lot, but that's still Boone-Pickens Stadium, a tough place to play. And I think the running game that Oklahoma State possesses, it's also vitally impressive. So that's going to be a tough game. I think that could be a really close one, though. Overall, the first 6 games are pretty interesting because they also have Utah and USC, the 2 top contenders in the Pac-12. I think you see losses there. I do think they will pick up a win at home versus Washington. The final 6-game stretch, it's a little easier, but I don't see many wins. I think at Colorado is a given, and I think at home against Oregon State would be a win. I think on the road is going to be really tough this year, though, for Arizona State. The only road game I see them winning is that one against the Buffaloes there in Boulder. It's just, this team's certainly going to take a step back. The offense will keep it up in the trenches and run the ball well. They lost Daniel's legs, but they replaced with Emory Jones, so I don't expect too much fall off, at least in the running game department. I think the pass game has some potential as well. It's a real mystery, though. I really don't know what we're going to get out of this passing game, especially with Jones now coming in. I don't know if he'll be the best option throwing the football, but I definitely know what they'll get out of his legs. I just need to figure out who will be the best playmakers at wide receiver. Defense is taking a step back, though, like I just mentioned. The defensive line and the DBs, they complemented each other so well last year. There's a good bit of talent on this defense, but they lose a lot of it, and the depth has suffered immensely this offseason due to a lot of players transferring and then others just graduating or entering the draft. So 5-7 is a prediction here for this team. I think they'll borderline bowl eligibility. Maybe they can snag one against Stanford or Washington State. I don't see it, though. I think 5-7 or maybe 6-6. That's going to be the ballpark area for Arizona State. Interesting ball squad here. Very excited to see what the offense does with the defense. I already know kind of what to expect this season. I think Herm Edwards will probably be out the door after this, unfortunately. One of my favorite coaches in the game, but this offseason was not pretty. They didn't have the best of season last year, and they actually had a pretty good team last year. So I think Herm Edwards will probably be out the door after this season. That's going to be it for today's episode, guys. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.